welcome to episode 2 of the Added Time podcast with me, Alan Myers. And what a show we've got lined up for you this week. We're going to cover, of course, as we always do, everything to do with the Premier League and the EFL. And we'll also be talking to Paul Lambert, who is the technical director for Borussia Dortmund and over the Asia region. We'll be looking at a number of issues about development with young kids in the game.
It's not just about winning football matches, it's about developing kids. And if they're not going to be a Bundesliga or Borussia Dortmund player, can they go to an Augsburg or can they go to a Mainz where they can develop?
We'll also be hearing from Tyler Onyango. He's on loan at Stockport County from Everton, and he's going to be talking about the loan situation, a loan system, whether it works or not for young players.
Everton's such a good club in terms of developing characters and personalities. I think obviously there's a lot of expectation. I think even on like the youth teams when you're playing for the 21.
We'll also hear from CEO of Everton Women's team, Hannah Forshaw, as they move to Goodison Park in their new era at the old stadium.
It's the statement of intent and the scale of the ambition of the ownership group. This is the direction women's football is going in, and the long-term hope is one day we'll fill the stadium full of female football fans in the same way that we did for the men's team. So to keep it and retain it during that growth period is just an unbelievable opportunity, and one I feel very privileged to be the custodian of, really.
Plus, Tony and I go on a little tour of Everton's Hill Dickinson Stadium. Now, you'll ask, who is Tony? Well, that's Tony Grant, of course, my resident expert on all things football. We'll be hearing from him in a minute. But before all that, let's introduce our guests in the studio today. And, of course, Tony Grant, my fellow presenter. Good to see you back, Tony, for episode 2. Are you looking forward to it today?
I am, Al. I'm looking forward to our guest as well, as you can explain who it is.
Well, of course, yeah, we have what I would call a heavenly guest in the studio today, because most of the Liverpool fans, if not all of the Liverpool fans, used to refer to him as God. And that is the one and only Robbie Fowler. Robbie, great to have you in the studio.
Cheers,
I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate.
And of course, someone you know very well, Tony. You grew up together, didn't you? As kids, played in Liverpool boys together. I'll speak to you first, Rob. How did you come to know Tony?
It was just through Liverpool schoolboys. So I think, as everyone knows, when you play for your school team, you get selected for trials. We went to Liverpool boys. You go for the trials, and obviously the better players get picked. And you could always see he was a proper standout player. Yeah, I mean, straight away, when you're seeing all these kids on a football field and one kid will stand out above all others, it was probably him, I'm being honest. And we've probably known each other from when we were 10
years old, yeah.
So yeah, he was the standout kid.
Well, Tony, I guess you're going to say he was the standout kid as
well. No, I think he's right. No, Liverpool, as you can imagine, the city's bustling with talent, isn't it? So we've always had great under 11s teams, 14s and 15s teams, and Liverpool and Everton FC have had lots of players come from these teams. The trials are always hard. Robbie was a brilliant footballer. I was a good footballer as well. We had other lads who were really good, but our relationship probably started from age 10, and parents got on with each other and support. Robbie's father, Robbie Senior, he would follow him everywhere. My dad, myself, Tony, would follow me everywhere, and it's just become like a little sort of family. And obviously, eventually, we go our separate ways, don't we? But we played in the under-16s before we signed for Everton and Liverpool. We had a year playing Sunday League, the last year together. But a lot of the Liverpool boys teams played, and as you can imagine, I don't think we lost that year.
No, I think we were quite successful with our Sunday League team.
And Robert, when it comes to the time when Granty says we went our different ways, one picked Everton, one picked Liverpool. Did you pick them, or was it just a matter of circumstance? Did they come for you as such?
Yeah, I think it was circumstance. I think, look, I mean, I grew up an Everton fan. I think it's obviously common knowledge. But the first scout to come up to me was a scout called Jim Aspinall, who's sadly no longer with us. But he was adamant that he wanted me to ply my trade at Liverpool. And I think I've always been that little bit loyal in terms of, if people look after me, I'll certainly look after them back. And because he was first aid, Jim, and I loved what he said. You know, I loved what he was not promising, because you can't promise kids anything, but the fact is that he wanted me to apply my trade because he felt that was my best chance of maybe progressing my career. And obviously Tony would have had the same from the scout who found him. But yeah, Liverpool was the first club that came to me. So, you know, I went to them and never looked back. Roll on a few years later when I was 14. So there's a form that you can sign, which is obviously schoolboy forms. So when you sign schoolboy forms, you're essentially signing for the club. When you're under 11s, you're just signing
like a yearly thing.
Yeah, like a yearly thing, isn't it? So, but I was at Liverpool anyway. Tony was at Everton, and then when I was 14, I signed a schoolboy form. But Everton were desperate for me. The Everton academy manager at the time was Graham Smith.
Yeah, I remember Graham. Yeah,
and obviously he was, I mean, sending me, you know, tickets for games, you know, shorts. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but you know, shorts signed by all the players, shirts, and he just really wanted me to, you know, to go to Everton. And I actually played a game. So obviously you get to a certain era or a certain time or a certain period, if you like, where, you know, you're still umming and ahhing what to do. I always knew I was going to go to, you know, to Liverpool, but there was a point where you sort of, well, maybe I should be doing this or I should be doing that, but you have to like sort of look after yourself and maybe sort the eventualities out. And I actually played a game for Everton. I mean, I was 14 and played for an under 18 game, and I came on sub. I mean, I was tiny. I mean, I'm not the biggest now, but I was tiny when I was 14 playing in this under 18 game. And I think we won the game. So I have actually wore a shirt for Everton. I don't think I've ever told anyone this. I actually have worn an Everton shirt.
An exclusive toe.
An Everton shirt and won a game at Belfield. And I almost scored a diving header, 14. I never scored. We won the game, never scored. But I think that's the one and only time I have actually played for Everton.
Well, they also tried even harder to get him to sign. So the 88, 89 cup final, which Everton lost 3-2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Stuart McCall scored 2 goals.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah,
remember it. So Everton took all the lads who were going to be scholars or apprentices, we were back in them days, and it hadn't been Liverpool back at the ranch probably has signed it, but Liverpool he hasn't actually signed for them.
Right.
I haven't actually signed for Everton, even though I'm going to Everton. So I think Everton tried the hand last minute to get him to sign for Everton. They took him to Wembley to watch the game, and then a week later he signed for Liverpool.
But that was the thing. So, you know, you're obviously trying to give you the you know, we'll look after you. We'll wine you, dine you, and we're obviously selling you for the club. But look, you'll do anything to get a ticket for the cup final.
But do you know what's that interesting now? This topic you've just opened up here, this is for another podcast, but I've worked in youth football as a youth coach, and what kids from when clubs are trying to get kids from different clubs, the stuff that goes on now. I mean, Rob's talking about getting a ticket, you know,
of course,
you know, or a meal, you know what I mean, and that's as much as you've done back in the day. You know what I mean? But now
it's a different type of tapping up then, wasn't it?
It's different now. I mean, that would be a good concept.
And I'll get straight on to Everton and see if we can get you a cap for that one performance, Robbie. But what happened to when you know, when it comes to did you almost lose touch in a sense because Robbie was like at Liverpool and all things Liverpool, and you were all things Everton? Did that put a bridge?
What would be nice to see, and be nice to get some images of, we played in a couple of derbies against each other,
right? And
it'd be nice to actually see that process of going from Sunday League football to professional, as high as you can get, really, playing for your 2 biggest clubs in the city and playing against each other, which, you know, it's quite unique, isn't it?
Were you aware of that when you played against each other?
Yeah, he can't remember, but he said a few things to me on the pitch. Some were nice and some weren't nice, but
I was probably trying to wind you up.
Probably was, because that's what Robbie was like a little bit. You know what I mean?
There was a lot of that in those days, wasn't there? People wound each other up on the.
But then I think he scored the goals. Do you know what I mean?
Of course,
against
which
us.
Was, I'm just saying, it obviously gets to a point where obviously you go your separate ways, and as much as you're still mates, but you know, we've all been there where you maybe lose touch a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know, if we bumped into each other, it's as though we've never been away. So you have that spell. And ironically, where it all came about is we had kids in the same school, really, wasn't it? So as much as we had like different, you know, upbringings, is probably different, I don't know, methods or avenues into obviously first team football. I mean, we have a lot in common as well. I mean, Tony was at Man City. I went just after he'd
yeah.
left. Obviously, then he went to Burnley. He signed for Burnley from City, didn't he?
That's right.
Yeah, so obviously, just as he signed for Burnley, I was signing for Man City. So that would have been good to sort of get this partnership, if you like. But I mean, we had a great career in terms of growing up, and you sort of lose touch a little bit, but we were still mates. You know what I mean?
You know, and yeah, both here today. You know, I mean, is that a Scouse thing? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I remember the last game of the season at Goodison Park, and you meet up with a lot of lads you were mates with.
Course,
now, me and Robbie's friendship went deeper than that because we were growing up, but they were all teammates.
Yeah.
Who you shared a changing room with, and you shared laughs with, and you shared tears with when you're getting beat, or you know, you're fighting with each other every day to get better, and then you lose track, and you play for different clubs. But then when you come back, you'll know you've said it yourself. The banter comes back. Yeah. The same laughs come back. Yeah. The characters are very similar. The same as what they were when they were playing and they were in the changing room. It
is a I mean, you know, I only got the honour of going into dressing rooms as a press officer and seeing, you know, I used to think about how great it must have been to be part of that banter, you know. But I mean, I was usually the reason for the banter, to be fair, most of the time. But you know, but you know, to get that camaraderie, as I say, you never lose that, do you, Rob?
I think so, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, banter is probably not a word I use because I mean, I obviously can't stand the word, but I think camaraderie is what it is, and I think that's what makes football clubs. You know, you talk about. I'm funny. We'll probably delve into tactics and formations and whatnot soon, but camaraderie is what makes teams. Yeah, you know, that's what gets you results. I mean, obviously going down the further on coaching route, I mean, we're all about environments and creating that camaraderie within certain sectors, if you like, to try and make results better. And the camaraderie is what does it. And characters, you know, within football, I think it's maybe sort of dying out within the game now. I think, I mean, forgive me for saying this, but it can be a little bit too robotic football now. Yeah. So you do need characters. Yeah. I mean, I look at it, my philosophy in football is, you know, if you've got a dressing room and all the same, then, you know, the dressing room's not I don't think it's a great place to be. But if you've got different characters in dressing rooms and, you know, everyone sort of, you know, amalgamates together and, you know, you help and create these right results, then I think that's better for the football club and it's better for the dressing room. You know, if you're all the same, then, for me, it doesn't work.
There's a great saying, can't remember the guy who says it, he's like a psychologist, and he says that culture eats strategy for breakfast, you know, and it's so true, isn't it? You know, the culture in a football club, if you get the right culture, if you get the right, it's why League Two teams beat Premier League teams in the FA Cup, isn't it? You know, it's that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, well, as you say, Rob, we'll talk more about those sort of things a little bit later in the programme, but I just want to talk about, we're talking about camaraderie, talking about, you know, keeping in touch with people, and I know, Robbie, you were with, and we must mention the late Ricky Hatton. I know you were with him not long ago, and what a terrible piece of news we saw, you know, on Sunday. And you know, I mean, obviously he's iconic, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, horrendous, isn't it? Horrendous news, and you know, we hear all about the reports of, you know, I know people have, you know, problems, you know, and it's hard to talk about for some people, but that there is lots and lots of charities and lots of people you can talk to, and this is what I would say to anyone: go out there, if you're having a bad time, go and speak to them. Obviously, going back to Ricky Hatton, I mean, it's horrendous news when we all heard it, and you thought this can't be happening, you know, it can't be real. I mean, it's just incredibly sad. I mean, Tony was saying, I was with him, you know, two and a half weeks ago, you know, at the PFA Awards, and I mean, he seemed jovial. He seemed, you know, in a nice place. You know, I was speaking to him and his manager, and it's just horrendously sad news. I can't get my head around it.
No, it's still sinking in, isn't it? Yeah. But you know, it's an interesting thing. We talk about, and a lot of I think Ricky's problems was trying to fill that gap after he finished his career, and that euphoria that you get when you win, in his case, boxing titles and whatever. Did you cope? How did you cope when you left your, you know, playing, when you stopped playing? We'll start with you, Tony. How did you deal with that? Did it affect you?
I sort of never had enough time away from it. I got quite lucky, to be honest with you, Alan. I went straight into youth coaching.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I mean? So I was back at it straight away within 6 months, and I was on my courses. You know, I was all of a sudden I've gone from playing to now helping kids become a better footballer, a better person. So I never had that time away, but it still doesn't fill the gap of playing, coaching. No. It's still not the same because you're out the changing room. And I've always likened to playing football to in a much nicer way as being in a prison.
Right.
Because I think you can get institutionalised.
Yes, yeah.
Because if you think about it, you're with a group of fellas, a group of men, all day, and you're having your crack with them, and you're having your, as I said, you're going to play your games, and you're having your fights, and you're having your good times and your bad times, and you're all sticking together.
Experiencing life.
You're experiencing life, and you all of a sudden, a lot of footballers do struggle when they come out of football because you're taking them out of that warm, probably loving family. It's like a family.
Safe environment.
Safe family. And now you're going back to life with sometimes no one around you. And you've had years of a certain type of language, and the new life just isn't that. How you replace that is tough. In our day, the education behind stuff was never there. I think young players now have got a much better chance of dealing with it because of education. And I think a lot of our era struggled. And I think I'd have struggled if I didn't go straight into coaching. Yeah. But I was lucky enough to.
Rob, you know, scoring that hat-trick goal against Arsenal, you know, scoring in a cup fight, you know, can that ever be replicated? Has it ever been replicated in you since you've finished playing football?
I mean, you talk about obviously the birthday kids. I mean, that's obviously there, and that's certainly up there. And I think I'm yet to experience that sort of emotive feeling, if you like. But you know, I think Tony's spot on. I mean, you are, you know, you have a career and you play football, and there's so many highs in football, but there's lots of lows. Don't get me wrong. And people think, you know, from the outside you're looking in and you think everything's perfect. But you know, it's not. You know, we're the same as every other person out there. You know, you have good days, you have bad days. You know, you might wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You could be arguing with your parents, you know, your partner or whoever. So this is what football is. You know, you sort of, I mean, you get taken away from real life, don't you?
Yeah, it's very much so. Yeah.
So you go and play football, and this is what, like, the route. I mean, just to go back to what you were saying before about like my step into what I do now. I mean, I had probably a good few months doing nothing, and it sounds great as you know, everyone wants to retire. But I mean, I was effectively retired when I was 33, 34, and it sounds brilliant. Yeah. But honestly, it was the worst moment in my life. Yeah. You know, all of a sudden you have this this education where you've done everything, you know, behind closed doors within football clubs. Now all of a sudden it stops, and then you go and fend for yourself. And it is a tough time, and this is probably the reason why I wanted to obviously get back into coaching and managing and being still part of football, because I mean, I love football. Football is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. Yeah. Football is the only thing I ever want to do, if I'm being totally honest. And it is that thing for me where, you know, you do need to do stuff. And as much as people say, oh, well, you're happy, you got this, you got that. I mean, it's a big change.
As you say, it is your life, isn't it? Football is your life. I mean, I remember going interviewing your lovely nan, who told me that she had to tell you off for smashing the ball against her windows at the back, you know.
That was common. That was a lot of tellings off of it.
She actually did the scream that she does, you know. It was just brilliant, you know. And but you really got the sense of the family and everything. It was great. But listen, we're going to move on because we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to look at the Premier League weekend. And Robbie, we'll start with your team, Liverpool. You know, it's one of those things, isn't it? When you're at the top and when you're winning trophies and things, you get situations like you got against Burnley, you know, on Sunday, don't you?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because people will go down whatever narrative they want to go down when they're talking about results. And I mean, Liverpool, okay, they haven't been brilliant, but they've been brilliant in getting results.
Winning games.
So in terms of performances, can they be better? Of course they can. But that's not to do with Liverpool. That's how teams have been playing against Liverpool. Yes. And I think Liverpool will find it hard in many games this year where teams will just shut up shop and make it hard for them. So that's not Liverpool's fault. You know, Liverpool have got to go and try and win games, and that's what they done the weekend. I mean, for 90 minutes plus, you know, Burnley made it hard. You know, and all the talk about was, oh, well, you know, it's maybe a lucky 3 points. But then, you know, you go down a route from Burnley and say, oh, they were plucky and deserved a draw. I mean, it's whatever narrative that people want to look at. You know, I'm obviously going to go look down the Liverpool narrative, and it's an unbelievable win. Okay, it wasn't an unbelievable performance. Players could have played better. I mean, look at Mo Salah, for example. You didn't see him for 90 minutes. Pops up with a winner, and that's what we've been accustomed to and used to with obviously seeing Mo. So, have they been lucky? Slightly, but you could say the fact is that they're so good in terms of what they do and how they approach games and how they see games out. But they've been brilliant, and now they've got the results.
And they're still looking for that winner at 90, whatever it was, 94, 95, minutes. They're still looking for it. And
that's what you want to do. And I think it's one of the traits that we've seen with Arne Slot, even last year in some of the games where, you think Liverpool are, sort of dead and buried in games, and then all of a sudden someone will pop up. And that's down to maybe do with the tactics of the manager. You want them to not shut up shop, but you want them to go out there and get the result that your team or your club deserves. Now, you obviously have to go and earn that right to deserve a victory. And you've got to say, as much as they've scored 4 late goals, they probably deserved. I mean, they probably had 10 minutes against Bournemouth, didn't he, where Bournemouth got back into the game. And then your Newcastle, possibly a little bit of luck in terms of getting the winner that late. Arsenal came to Liverpool and sort of made it hard for them. Again, Liverpool pop up with that free kick, but then you sort of revert to the Burnley game. Burnley made it hard, and I think it's a sign of a good team when you're obviously relentless for X amount of minutes and then get that winner. And was it deserved? It probably was, in all fairness, in terms of how you get that result. People could query Burnley and say, they were unlucky. Burnley had a way of playing, made it hard. Burnley wouldn't play like that all the time. But I think you've got to admire Burnley as well, for changing the tactics, and changing a, not formation, but changing a tactic, if you like, to maybe stop Liverpool, because they know if they go toe-to-toe, Liverpool are going to win the game, 99 times out of 100. Burnley made it difficult, and you give Liverpool credit for plugging on and keeping going.
Tony, Robbie mentioned Arsenal there. They had a really convincing win, didn't they, against Nottingham Forest. All the turmoil with Forest, with the new manager and all the rest of it. But do you think Arsenal are better equipped this season? I mean, they've got Gyökeres, who, looks like he's scoring the goals that Arsenal needed and that were missing last year. They never really had a centre point. And as Robbie will know, you've got to have a striker who can put the ball in the net. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and we spoke last week, and we were talking about Gyökeres. I mentioned that he could be a little bit of the fox in the box that when Franny signed for them a long time, which was obviously it didn't work for Fran, but he could be that fox in the box. They've got everything else, Arsenal. They've got the players who can have the ball. They've got a lot of technicians in the team who can create openings. They sort of need that player in a way, like a little bit like Haaland does for City, who doesn't really get overly involved in the game, but can offer a run at the right time and be in the box for a cross, be between the sticks, as they say. So as long as they keep playing him, because he will have games like Haaland does where they might lose or draw and he's a non-entity, but they're going to have to stick with him because they've bought him to score the goals. You just got to keep playing him, and I think they should be the ones who are really pushing Liverpool right to the limit. They shouldn't let up this year.
Can you see that, Rob?
Yeah, I think when you look at Arsenal now, I think they've certainly got no excuses. I think myself and Tony, we talk football all the time because obviously that's what we do. We'll go and chew the fat, we'll talk coffee and talk teams and tactics. And Arsenal over the years, I mean, solid defensively. And look, there's a famous saying that you don't win you don't win titles with strikers. They might win the odd game, but defenders win your league titles. And that's one thing that they have got, haven't they? I mean, defensively, they are rock solid. Yeah. They've got a little bit of class and guile in that midfield. And obviously with Gyökeres coming in, he could be that difference. I mean, over the years, they've had maybe Martinelli's played down there. Havertz has played down there. So they have lacked that focal point and that pivotal strike, if you like. So, but now the pressure is on them to deliver because they've got no excuses. They don't concede goals. You're waiting for them to to score goals, and we see in his record Gyökeres had in Portugal, and it was phenomenal. But you look at Nunes when he was at Liverpool, his record in Portugal was phenomenal. So coming into the Premier League is a totally different. I mean, that's a totally different challenge. So okay, he's had a decent start where he scored a couple of goals where Arsenal have been dominant and he will create the chances. But I mean, you know, I'm not an Arsenal fan, but Arsenal fans will think now, well, this is probably the best chance they'd have had for a number of years now. They've got all the players that they need.
We also saw over the weekend the Manchester Derby. I interviewed Pep on Friday, and he seemed very upbeat. He you know, which I wasn't sort of expecting with the couple of defeats that they've had, but he was, and that proved to be, you know, the case really on Sunday. Are you really concerned? Well, I'm sure you're not concerned, but do you really fear for Manchester United again this season?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, Manchester United have. They probably remind me of Liverpool in the early 90s, if I'm being honest, because and I don't mean this in a derogatory term to the players, but I think there's players there who shouldn't be playing for Manchester United. There's players who think they're better than what they are. Again, you know, we were watching the game yesterday, and I think we talk about how you play football is you simplify the game. Now, for me, Manchester United, even Chelsea to a degree now, have got players who, don't get me wrong, they're obviously good players because they're playing for, you know, good team, a good level. But I think there's too many people trying to be heroes, too many people trying to do too much to try and make themselves look better. And I think that's the problem with Manchester United. You know, should they be playing for? Probably not. You know, if you think of the teams that they've had over the years, you know, they've been phenomenal. We know that. But I mean, am I losing sleep over them? Not really, no. I'll be honest with you. But we'll talk about them because obviously the problems that they're having, you know, that the manager comes in, and I mean, one of the problems I do have with the manager is the fact is that he's so set and stubborn in the way he wants to play. Yeah. Now, I had the problem the same as Russell Martin last year at Southampton. If I'm an owner of a football club, you know, my realm, if you like, is to say to the manager, look, you know, I don't care how you play, you've got to stay in the Premier League. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying Manchester United will go down this route. I'm talking Southampton here, but, you know, I know you have a way of playing, but go and show people you're a great manager and a fantastic manager by changing your formation or your tactic a little bit. And then, you know what, revert back to that, you know, when the players are all confident, but go and show people you're a great manager by getting the results you needed. Because, you know, for me, Southampton owner, you know, you want to stay in the Premier League, you know, I don't care about your reputation or you play good football or you play good stuff. You've got to stay in the Premier League. Now, this is the same with obviously Amarim. He's obviously a brilliant manager, and you know, we've been obviously manager and coach, and the formation, I like it, but you've got to get the right players. And for me, I'm not sure he's got the right players in the positions that Manchester United should be, the way they want to set up. I think it's square pegs and round holes, isn't it? Or is it? No, that's right. But I think that's what they're trying to do. So, I mean, can they be better? Will they be better than last year? I'd be amazed if they're not better than last year, in all fairness.
But they might go down if they're not.
Yeah. It'd be difficult, wouldn't it? Yeah. But I mean, Amarim said this weekend after the game, you know, he said, I'll be sacked before I change my style. You know, and you think, well, that's not a great place to be as a coach.
I think it also goes a bit deeper than, don't be wrong, is Amarim the right guy? Is his personality big enough for the Man United job, which is, with the Liverpool job, probably the biggest job in the country? So has he got the personality for that gig? Who's been recruiting all these players? Because I cannot see how they're trying to play. I know that they've tried with Sesko up front now with big money. And they spent a lot of money last year. They got Hoylands, who you spent money on Hoylands. He's gone.
It was also bought Sexy as well, didn't it?
Yeah, another one. And I still can't see a forward. No, I don't see one that fits that model. Then he's got, I don't know what he's playing centre mid. The centre mids don't look like they've got any presence. No. So I don't really know what they're trying to do. You know, that formation is almost a counter-attacking formation until you've got that much confidence to then go really high. Then you've got to work out your opposition, who you're up against. You're up against City away. But when you've got to be a counter-attacker, and you've got to play the same certain tactics or patterns of play. I don't even see a pattern of play of what that suits the formation. I don't see centre halves going up with the ball and creating that extra man in midfield. I don't actually see it. All I see is words. And this is my formation, but I don't actually see what the plan is. So I think there's more problems at Man U, and I think it's going to go. They will sack the manager at some stage soon, but it's then the next manager come in. If behind the scenes the people picking these players, they're not Man United players.
No, and then you've got this situation which Everton found themselves in a few last year or whatever, but of 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 managers who bring in their own players, and you've got a mismatch of other managers' players. The changing managers so often it's not good, is it?
It's that vicious circle, isn't it? You know, every manager will come in and they'll want their own stamp on any given team, won't they? Players come in, come in different positions, different formations, and you've got to think the recruitment that Manchester United have had is players coming in for the position that the manager wants. So then all of a sudden, if the manager changes, then a new manager comes in and plays a different way. Then you're sort of back to square one. So with football clubs, it's all about creating foundations, isn't it? I think you look at Manchester United over the years, and they've had a little bit of foundation. Then all of a sudden, they've needing to start again because the foundations haven't really progressed. Again, you look at sort of Everton under Sean Dyche. The players probably didn't look at the end as though they really enjoyed playing under him. You look at obviously Moyes come in and to be fair, he's done a great job, and it looks as though there's a little bit of confidence, which is obviously what helps in football as well.
What you talked about before, confidence.
But I also think that personality change, having a manager who has got the personality, because if the team, we're talking about Man U. For a number of years, I've not really seen a good Man U team with different managers. They've had about 7 managers in the last 10 years or 8 years. Rangnick and, Van Gaal, all the way up to there. I just can't see a good Man U team that represent Man U. So you go back to when Slot took over Liverpool, and he never really changed the players, did he? From Klopp's team, and then he won the league. Now, they've changed this year a few players, so that'll be interesting now. That goes on. But it's very hard to come in at Man U and take last year's team and go, we're going to do what Slot's just done. It's very hard because the team they need to get a good team. It doesn't matter who the manager is. Yeah. And then when they're changing the manager, you're talking about getting different managers. When they then change a manager, you've already got a decent team. But they're just all over the place.
Is that, a question for you then? Do you think it's easier from an outside looking at football clubs when, you look at, you've just mentioned Slot, so he comes into a Liverpool team who've just, had a really successful period under Jurgen Klopp. And okay, I know maybe a few of the players may be coming towards the end. So, but the stability's there at the football club, isn't it? But if you look at like an Amarin or, a Moyes going into Everton or Amarin going into Manchester United, the setup's different in it because they're effectively struggling football clubs where a manager's coming in, where a Slot's coming into a club that is
their hands are fixed as well as go forward, aren't they?
Yeah, which is for me, Man U. I think there's still whatever's going on behind the scenes, and I'm talking about recruitment,
right? And
how you deal with a transition of academy players. And you go back to the really good Man U team, and we're talking about Giggs, Beckham, and Scholes come through the academy. We're talking about an academy system. Man U should have a really good academy system. Is there a pathway for them? Are the ones coming through of that level? But if they're not, the players you're bringing in, they have to be the top players. And every time I watch Man U, there's many a time I've watched them in midfield. They've got no legs. They can't get about the pitch in the modern era.
I can only think of Kobe Mainoo really in the last couple of years that has come through. I can't really think of anyone. But
so I think there's more problems at Man U, even when Amarin goes. But I think then they need to go and get an older manager who's been and done it and can put a stamp on it. But then all behind the scenes, they have to comply. Yeah. Or they've got to make their mind up what they're doing. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Well, let's just finish the Premier League stuff on Everton, Tony. I know you and I were at the game on Saturday, and again, we've got one of the most prolific goal scorers in Premier League history with us, but the goal scoring was a problem, wasn't it? The actual putting the ball in the back of the net. We keep talking about. Is that going to change? I mean, they've got all these creative players like. You could go from Grealish to Dewsbury Hall to Dibbling when he comes on. To even the German lad come in. He started looking if he was going to have a go. Yeah. Do they need more up front than Beto and Barry?
Rob's done the hardest thing in football, and putting the ball on the back of the net is the hardest thing, which is why they've always been the most sought after players. If Everton would have had a striker of Robbie's ilk on Saturday, I think he'd have scored a hat-trick. We're actually more exciting to go and watch, aren't we? So you go and watch us now. It's actually quite enjoyable to go and watch us because whether we go down a left wing, the right wing, or even through the middle, we've got players who can take the ball and create something. Now, in the Premier League, it's a tough league, and if you don't take your chances, there's a good chance you could lose the game. And Everton had a great chance in the first half. Beto had a great chance, and he's got to do better. Yeah, he has to do better, because we can't go every game saying you've got to do better. Not if you want to get up the league. And as it's 0-0, you know, the opposition are going to get a little bit more confidence. They're going to find a little pass. They're going to go through your midfield. And if they find the right pass and the right run, you could easily lose that game 1-0.
Yeah,
so it's how long you can carry on doing that.
Yeah.
Now, if we could bring the forward in now, just for more competition, great, but we can't. So I just think we're just hoping that they find their goal scoring boots, Rob.
You know, with football and certainly with strikers, it's all about decisions, whether, you know, you run here or, you know, how you control the ball in terms of getting that space away from the defender. There was one moment in the game, Everton against Villa on the weekend, and I just thought this probably summed up Beto. Now, look, for whatever people think about him, is he probably a number 9 at a Premier League club? No, I don't think he is. I think you can get better, in all fairness. And again, I'm not having a go at the lad. I just think, and he tries hard, but he hasn't really got the quality that a club who has real potential to progress should be getting. I think you can get better. And there was one point, and I thought to myself, it was all about this decision. You probably remember Tarkovsky played a lovely ball over the top, and to be fair to Beto, he made a great run. Yeah. But you talk about decision making, and he tried to control it with his right knee.
That's right.
And I'm just thinking,
I remember the one.
If you take it with your left knee, you're going to score. Yeah. But he tried to take it straight away. The ball comes over, it comes off your right knee, and it's going towards the keeper. But if it get your body shape comes off your left knee, then it sort of opens up the goal, and it opens up you as a striker to get the ability to get your shot away.
Exactly the chance.
And he sort of come off his knee and went out to play, and I thought, I think that sums him up. So football and whatever position is decision making, but it's pivotal for a striker to make the correct decisions where you run and how you can control the ball and the situation you get to. And I think that's what the players lack. You talk about Manchester United signing Sesko, a lot of money, and there's Arsenal signing Gyökeres. Everton have spent a little bit of money over the years. Beto was 35-40 million. The new lad Barry's 30 million. So there's 70 million straight away on two strikers who, let's be honest, you can get better. Yeah,
I think you can't. From my point of view as a fan, you can't doubt Beto for his enthusiasm, his endeavour. He really works hard, and he'll run for everything. But as a striker, the first thing you've got to have is a finish, haven't you? You've got to put the ball in the
net. And I think even young Barry, he is young. Yeah, he's young.
He's going to take time.
Yeah. So, is he? How fast is he? Is he explosive? Can he come off the pitch onto the pitch for 20 minutes and give us something? Now on Saturday he got put through, didn't he? Yeah. And we're thinking, go on. And his youth or inexperience took him away from the goal, and they caught up, and you're missing opportunity. That comes down to recruitment. I'm talking about Man U's recruitment. It comes down to recruitment again, of watching players, seeing are they equipped for this league, and it's very hard to get a number 9. Yeah, do you know what I mean? It is tough to get one. We're built up quite well around the 9. We're just missing that 9 now. You can have a month in football where you can come from here and rise, can't you? So I suppose for Everton now, they're just hoping that they're going to have to stick with Beto, because I think young Barry to starting games might be a little bit off. And you're just hoping you bench confidence before. Confidence could be the thing that changes them. And they might start going in then, but they've got to start sooner rather than later.
Can I pose a question to you? So obviously you go to the game, you see the players playing. So when you look at players, and Al, you've just mentioned that you can't argue with his desire and his endeavour. He'll want to work hard. Barry will be the same. But can you honestly say you can see something there other than the working hard? Because working hard should be a prerequisite anyway.
It should be, you're right. Yeah.
So can you see something other than the fact is let's praise him for working hard? You should be working hard.
I think my problem is over the last few years I've seen players who don't work hard. So you sort of you get a bit of a breath of fresh air to see that. Yeah. But you're right.
On Rob's point there, though, it's the right point really that he's making, because with Jack Grealish, you see quality. Yeah. And with Ndai, you see quality. Yeah. And with Kieran, you do see quality. Yeah. It's no coincidence that Kieran got sought after by Chelsea and he got sought after by Man City. Now, if we could just get, if our number 9, he might not be able to do it, but if Everton could get a number 9 who has that bit of quality, which is what you're saying, because it isn't just about hard work, because you can get League 2 players to come and run about and just go and chase Chris Packets, can't you? Who can come in. So we have to improve in that number 9 area, because on Saturday's game, if we could have easily won that 2 or 3-0.
Yeah.
With a striker who's just got that little bit of nous, a little bit of like guile, a little bit of quality, and didn't run about as much. We probably could have won that game. And then, but if you don't score your goals, you end up, funny enough, piling pressure on your manager, who's actually doing a great job. Yeah. If he'd had a striker, he does even a better job.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to what we were saying before about strikers winning games, defenders win your titles. At the minute, you've got to find that striker who's going to win you the games.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no point defending everything if you're going to draw 0-0 every game. Listen, we're heading here for, I think, a 90-minute podcast if we're not careful. So we need to move on to the EFL. We're going to start with Sheffield United because they've sacked their manager over the weekend, Ruben Sellers. I was talking about it to a Sheffield United fan on Twitter, and I said they haven't just shot themselves in the foot, the owners. They've took their leg off, because they had Chris Wilder there, and yeah, okay, there was a huge disappointment of not getting through the playoffs when they were expected. I mean, they were right up there with the 2 that did get promoted, but. Was that a big mistake, do you think, Rob, getting rid of Wilder? Or was it a big mistake bringing Sellers in, if you know what I mean?
I think a bit of both, in all honesty. I think with Wilder, someone who... I don't fall into the category of someone who knows the football club or, he understands the place, because...
You don't have to do that.
No, everyone should know what you're going in there. You got to do a job. And for the large part, Chris Wilder was brilliant at Sheffield United. He sort of got the results needed to they sort of failed is probably a strong word, but they failed in terms of getting back into the Premier League. They lost the playoff. They lost the final, didn't they?
Against Sunderland.
They lost the final, so they lost that, and then all of a sudden there's, are they back to square one? Yes, they probably are, because they've but last year they were very good in terms of getting the results and the performances needed. It's obviously going to be a long season again, and then for whatever reason, the ownership have come in and said, well, look, we need to get someone to maybe get us into that. So therefore, you're signing a manager whose record hasn't been brilliant.
No.
So I mean, this is one of the problems that you have in terms of ownerships or CEOs, sporting directors. What do they see in some managers coming into football clubs to think that someone of Chris Wilder's ilk? Why can they be better than that? I can't get my head around that. Sometimes it's. I mean, everything in hindsight is brilliant, isn't it? But if something's nearly working, then you wouldn't really go back to the beginning and say, well, let's try again. You give Chris Wilder a little bit more time, and give him that maybe momentum to try and get going again for a football team. I mean, I think in this country we do have a soft spot for foreign names coming in, foreign managers, and and I can say this because obviously being a manager, I do find it tough to get into the country. But if I was to change my name to Roberto Falero, I think I'd probably be all right, But I think that's what it is. So his tactics, he's not necessarily better than Chris Wilder. Chris Wilder was probably someone who got the best out of the team that he had. And look, for whatever reason, whether it was recruitment problems or not getting the players in who he wanted to, then obviously there was a mutual agreement to get rid. But it might have been the club, it might have been Chris Wilder. We don't really know the the fundamentals of why he wasn't there. But hindsight's obviously a brilliant thing, and you've got to say Ruben Sellers was not the man, and it was proven.
Definitely not. No.
I wonder if the club will revisit the conversations they had when they were changing manager. I wonder if each director or director of football are actually going to stand up and stand on the words of, we'll get rid of this manager for this reason, and let's bring in this manager for that reason. And it's a little bit of a lot of decisions go on at football clubs that don't get accountability sort of just goes away, and they just give Sellers, who probably didn't deserve to get the opportunity to manage that. Now, I listened to a Jose Mourinho chat last week. He talked about a lot of clubs now are going just for a visual.
Okay.
Right, a visual of how a lot of managers look like each other, and they all sort of look like Pep. Right, they've all got the dark hair. They all look very similar, and sometimes you wonder if they're going through just a pure visual.
Really?
Right? Yeah, you mentioned it. Yeah, because some of them are getting jobs when they've got no background to get the job. You know, you're talking about Sheffield almost getting promoted again, being in the Premier League, a manager who took them up from League One. They're in a working class city, you know, where it's very similar to this city, isn't it? You know, football is everything.
Yeah.
But you're going to take out a guy who's done actually really, really well for whatever reason, and put this guy in who is probably a better looking guy, right? But now, what else has he shown you? Right? So that's what I'm saying. I wonder if all these board guys now who are going to agree to bringing this guy in are going to stand up and go, you know, it was the right decision or the wrong decision.
As someone who's been at a club as a director in the boardroom, I suspect not.
Not,
Tony.
Yes, I think that would be
but
right.
And isn't a Falero an ice cream or something? I'm
Probably,
certain
yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Sounds it.
Listen, Middlesbrough still top of the Championship. They're flying. Cardiff still top of League One. I mean, they played Stockport, and this week we went and spoke with Tyler Onyango, who's on loan from Everton at Stockport County, and he talked to me about the loan system and what it brings to him.
Massive, I think. There's so many benefits. I think obviously in an ideal world, young player, they go out, they play every game, start every game. Obviously an exposure in terms of like whether you're dealing with a relegation battle and the pressures of that. Just going into the changing rooms, into a men's environment for the first time, that's a big thing. It's totally different to 23s or 21s football, where like people's jobs and careers are on the line. So like it means a lot to people and to us. So that's, you got to deal with that and still perform well. So it's massive. It's so good for your development as a person and as a player.
And is that competitiveness? Because I mean, you know, I know under 23s, under 21s, you know, every game you play, you will be competitive, but there's not that sort of that competitiveness as you get in the league system, and you know, is that a big thing? Yeah,
massive. I think like you said, every game you want to win, whether it's under 16s, under 18s, under 21s, you want to win every game and perform to your best. But I think when you go into the league, there's a difference. Like the crowd for one, like I said, the manager, like there's a lot more pressure on the staff and us players to get 3 points, and that is all that matters. Like if no matter how you perform, if you win, like everyone's happy type of thing. Where I think under 21s is a bit more about development and performance and individuals.
So interesting, you've both brought players through. You've seen players go out on loan. I think, Tony, you've actually had Tyler Onyango on loan at Forest Green, didn't you? Yeah. What is the benefit? He clearly gets a benefit from the loan system. Is that the best way to get younger players at Premier League clubs the real experience, you think, Rob?
It's probably the only way. I mean, Tony mentioned it before about when you are certainly the Premier League, you know, the Premier League is marketed the best league in the world. I don't think, I mean, for whatever reasons people will say it's the best league, but I think it's the best marketed league. Yeah. So therefore, the best players want to come over here. And it's hard. There's a pathway for players to go through, and players will find it hard to go to a Premier League club because the clubs more often than not, you know, it's all about the you know, the winning stuff. You know, to bring in the right monies in, so they want to spend money on players. So the pathway is maybe closed for a lot of players. So I think going on loan is probably the only way for a lot of young players to sort of get out there, show people what you can do, you know, and maybe try and get back to where you believe you should be. You're talking there about, you know, under 21, under 23 football. It's totally different to, you know, you know, the games that you see in League One and League Two, and even the Championship. You know, it's look, you have the ball for 5 minutes, we'll have it for 5 minutes. So there's not really an end product. Don't get me wrong. There's some technically brilliant young players, course, but the game's different. You know, the format becomes totally different, and players need to sort of find better ways. You know, again, talk decision making, so decisions got to be more clearer. So the pathway of players going on loan, I think for me is probably the only way for them to maybe get back into the spotlight and showing the prospective owners what they can do.
But Tony, Robbie's talking about the difference in the games, which clearly is there. But there's also a difference in your life that you live as a under 23 player and as a League One player, isn't it?
I think lots of things that you gain from going on loan. Take football out the way. Character, it builds your character, right? Your resilience, yeah, it builds that. Your ethic, yeah, your how you get on with people. So all of a sudden you've come out of a youth setup, a development setup, and now this is the job you want to do. You've left school, you want to be a footballer and play in front of people. That's what you want to do. Now the under-21 league is a development league. It was called a development league, so it's there to develop. It's not there to have your career. And players who get to a certain age and have had a career, this is where they're being badly advised, or maybe they don't want to be footballers. If you can't get in your main team, you have to go on loan. There's no two ways about it. Our pyramid system is set up for all players to go out on loan. You know, my first loan was Swindon, but I'd played for Everton before Swindon. My first club was Swindon. Steve McMahon was the manager. You know, Steve McMahon was a great midfielder, so for me, that's great. Now, what I was lacking before I went there was my confidence. So the reason Joe had sent me on loan was to build that back up. So it wasn't for anything else. So the words I'm using now is character,
life lessons,
confidence, yeah, resilience, and this is what going on loan can get you. Now, this is where character comes in, because you'll get some kids from big clubs who actually think they're big when they go to these smaller clubs. Yeah. And the personality, they can't change the personality or the character. Right. And they fail because they think they're too good for the club. There's examples of it over the years where lads have just failed. And it's purely through that. But if you roll your sleeves up and go, I want to be a footballer, the loan system, that's what it's there for.
I don't think you never went on loan at all.
No, I never. No, I mean I was straight in.
It's too good.
Yeah, it's too good. Yeah.
But you know, one of the words that you haven't used there. So you talked about character, desire, and all that. One of the things is ownership. Yeah, it gives the players to go out there and go and achieve something that. Because let's be honest, academy football it's great and it has a way, obviously, but everything's done for you. So you go to a club in the lower leagues, and then all of a sudden they haven't got the money that the Premier League have. So you've got to have something about you, and you've got to have a little bit of ownership on yourself. Yeah. You've got to make decisions again. Go back to decision making. So
even your lunch, you might have to go and make your own lunch. And this sounds crazy.
How dare you?
Yeah. It sounds crazy. Yeah, but you've got Premier League players, and they're getting mollycoddled. Yeah. Now they are getting developed.
Yes.
But then it's not down to the club. The club then say, right, go out on loan. Yeah. And then you get agents then who will go, oh, that loan's not good for them. The football landscape has changed so much from my day from going on loan to now, but it's still the best place for players to be what they want to be when they leave school, which is a footballer.
You can't teach real life.
Can't teach it, no.
Okay, so in the next part we're going to be talking to Paul Lambert, who was obviously the former Aston Villa manager and also won the Champions League in the 90s with Borussia Dortmund.
My job title now is Technical Director South East Asia for Dortmund. So I cover places like Thailand, Singapore, Australia, India, Cambodia, Malaysia, Vietnam. It's basically all South East Asia where I go, but I'm actually based in Australia where I put the Dortmund philosophy into the kids, the structure, and how Dortmund train the kids back in Germany. So I've been there to Germany and studied all that and spoke to the guys there, and I've got to put that into Australia. That comes with a bit of talent ID, and even when I go to different countries, I can see different kids playing. And Dortmund have got international academies all over the world. So if I go to different academies, I can get to see kids as well, and I talk to the other coaches and what they're doing and how they're doing it. But predominantly, I'm in Australia with an NPL club, which is really good. So it's a different way in Australia. It's a little bit difficult pathway for kids there, but there's kids there that are really, really good. So, but they're getting to learn how Dortmund train because I'm putting into the coaches and into the system. So, plus, as you said there, the ambassadorial role, which is great because you get to meet so many people and different parts of the world. I travel to different parts of the world and do that sort of side of it. But the predominantly is put the Dortmund philosophy into the club.
Now, Paul is the Borussia Dortmund's technical director for the Asia Pacific area. So he works in Australia. He goes to countries like Thailand, Vietnam, all these places around Asia, India as well, looking for talent and trying to put the Borussia Dortmund ethos into kids. It's an interesting, and I know a lot of clubs in this country do the same thing. But you've both managed and coached in India and in Australia. He says, as you've just heard there in his interview, it's very difficult. There's a difficult pathway for kids in Australia. Did you see that when you were over there? Was that something you were bothered with? I mean, because obviously
look, I'll be honest with you, you're bothered about getting results and that particular time, but obviously the longer you are at a club, then you sort of start to look at that. And one of the first questions I used to get, I mean, I've obviously been in Thailand as well, so I used to get all the time, is how do you make football better? You talk about national teams, how do you make them better? You don't click your fingers and suddenly become a great team. Fundamentally, I think it starts from kids. So, the idea of maybe football clubs, whether it's Dortmund, whether it's Liverpool, Everton, Man United, all these clubs throughout going to sit. And look, it's a play on words, and look, let's go have the Borussia Dortmund way. I think it's just getting kids to understand what football should be like at a young age. Now, it's not going to be a quick fix when you're trying to fix football clubs or fix players or fix national teams. It becomes getting the kids used to football and getting the right ideas and philosophies into them at a young age. So it could be infrastructure, it could be getting the right training centres. But that's the knowledge that the kids need to sort of progress and go better. I mean, where we've been over the years, obviously Australia, Thailand, India. I mean, technically, a lot of the players are brilliant, but the understanding of the game can be better, and that comes from maybe your clubs like your Dortmunds, your Paul Lamberts going in and getting these ideas into the players at a young age, or to get them to understand what football is really like, what it takes to be a footballer in a top league. It's not a quick fix, and I think it's great that people in football clubs go to obviously countries and try and help them out and try and progress them over the years. I mean, you could be talking 15, 20 years before you see the fruits of the labour, if you like. Australia is maybe a little bit different in it because the pathway is different. The pathway to what we see in this country is totally different. You see obviously the kids going in academy football. The infrastructure in Australia is a little bit different. Now, I don't know whether it's changed over the last couple of years, but when we were there, it was for you to go into a football club over there as an academy player or as a schoolboy going into represent, you have to pay money. Now, I don't know whether that's changed. Wow. I really don't know, but that's sure.
Did you have homegrown players though in your side at Brisbane Roar?
Yeah.
So players were coming through.
So when Rob took over Brisbane Roar, we actually, one of the players we took was actually an Aussie boy who was actually at Burnley, and Aidan O'Neill, and so he actually had a scholarship at Burnley.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but he was only, how old was Aidan? He was only young, wasn't he, at the time?
18, 19.
So he'd come over here to learn his trade.
So he came over here. I think he actually had a loan at Fleetwood. He went to Fleetwood for a short loan, and he wanted to go back to Australia, so he come to us. So already there was players going, and then in our academy, because we're developers as well as management, we had a little look, and there was a 16-year-old in Courtney, big tall left-sided player, and he ended up playing one of the youngest A-League debuts, and he ends up becoming ever present in our team. And he's from the academy. And what you'll find in Australia now, you'll see a massive influx of players going to Scotland, don't you? There's an awful lot going to Scotland. So
what's behind that? Is there any particular reason? No, a Rangers, Celtic?
No, I think the rules and the laws are different from England to Scotland, and I think it's an easier pathway for them to get into Scotland. But I'd say there's 5, 6, 7 players playing in Scotland.
Younger players,
there is, isn't there? Yeah.
But and I guess when you talk about India and probably Thailand, I mean, Australia has quite an established football league, doesn't it? And you always remember my dad, you know, when the season finished, he'd go to the Aussie pools, you know, and do, you know, so it's been established for a long time, isn't it? But India is a very different thing again, isn't it? Because there's no real structure of Indian football, is there? No. I wouldn't imagine anyway.
No, there's obviously different pyramids, if you like, in it. So you obviously have the I League and the ISL.
I thought it was Egypt. Sorry, go on.
Hey, I'm here all week. So obviously you have the obviously ISL and the I League. Yeah. So the ISL is obviously it's more of a monetized league, if you like, where obviously people were paying to go in.
Yeah.
I think they've got a few little problems at the minute over there in terms of getting the rights out to the television rights. So I think that they may be struggling there, but the I League has been, I think it's been going for easy over 100 years. So that's established, but you maybe again the infrastructure for that league's probably not what it was. With the ISL coming in, the infrastructure looked a little bit better. You're playing in better stadiums. You know, the game was marketed better. So there is a real potential for a lot of these countries to get better in terms of bringing kids through and, you know, developing sort of the nations. And what Tony's saying there with obviously Australia, we had Jordan Courtney. I mean, when I was in Thailand as well, I gave a debut to a 15-year-old. When we were in India, we gave the young a player, young Tomba. He was the youngest player to make at that particular time to make his debut in the ISL. So I mean, fundamentally, when you think of football, you know, if you're good enough, regardless of how old you are, you know, you'll get a chance if you've got the right manager and the right coach. So therefore, if you've got I mean, us for example, it was all, look, of course we want to go in there, we want to get the best results. But if you've got a young kid who's showing the right qualities, then, you know, why wouldn't you use them?
And I also, you know, we talk about the development side of Paul Lambert's job and everything, of getting that ethos over there. But there's also the other side, isn't there? Looking for the next Viduka, looking for the next Harry Kewell, looking for the next Tim Cahill.
And that is every club's doing it. Yeah, every club. You know, you'll go into an academy now, and there might be an under 8s or under even 5s. I think under 5s, and the net. They're just throwing a net over the regions. You know, the better. Yeah, of course, and you know, and if they don't do it. The club next door to them is going to do it. So there's probably no right and wrong way. The only problem they have, it goes down to the well-being as we go on with these young kids and these young families, because they live the dream at age 5 and 6. Yeah. And back in our day, age 5 and 6, you're playing against the wall, aren't you? You know what I mean?
Or a window in its well, look, I mean, it's a fascinating subject, and so you could talk a lot more about it. I remember what you were saying there, Robbie. I remember going over to India on a number of occasions through my Blackburn connections, and I thought it would be difficult to find people talking about football because it was a cricket country, but it wasn't the case. There was a massive love, especially on the east side where you were. You know, there was a massive desire for the game.
I think India is one of them countries. Apart from obviously you need a lot of money. Money becomes a problem. I get that, but I think it's one country that can move forward much quickly than other countries because they're so far behind. And the things that they're behind in, as Rob said before, a lot of technically, they've got a number of players or regions that bring technical players. It's the physical side of it, and it's the education side, and it's the nutrition side, isn't it? And it's these things that, you know, if you get the right schools, which is what Dortmund are probably trying to input, the Dortmund way. It's not just coaching, it's the Dortmund way. Yeah. And it's off the pitch. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, if you can get the right kids buying into that, whatever that way is, whether it's the Liverpool way or the Everton way or the Man United way or the City way, whatever that way is, it's more than just with the ball. It's the rounded. Yeah. Yeah, the whole. And then if you get some kids out of it, then you will find players in all these places.
I think I mean, just when you're talking there, obviously my head's going, and you know, it's obviously things whizzing round. But we were talking before about decisions and, you know, getting the understanding of the game. But if you think of maybe half an hour ago, we were talking about players in the Premier League. Have to understand the game a little bit better. Yeah, so therefore, you're going back, you know, generations of obviously football in certain countries in Asia. Then the understanding's got to be better. But when you think of now in the Premier League, we had like a little argument before about decision making and understanding the game and what he should do, and it sounds a little football is very simple, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, obviously
simple
made
game,
complicated
yeah,
by
absolutely.
tactics or certain managers want to do stuff. But if you go out there and keep it simple, you've got a chance. And that sounds stupid, but the simplicity is what you need.
And I think what's great, and I can say this, I know you'll be modest, but you improved all the sides you went to. Every Brisbane Roar, was it Bengal? East Bengal. Yeah, absolutely. So, so that must have been a big part of what you were like to do out there, was to make those teams better and to grow those teams.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, funny enough, I was watching yesterday, and someone said, he's not had in a little bit of time to sort of get what he wants, and eventually he'll be all right. When we went to India, and this sounds far-fetched, and this is obviously another podcast because we could be all day. We literally had 10 days pre-season with a team, and look into it. We had 10 days with a team who was from the I-League. The owner bought the rights to play in the ISL, and we had 10 days to prepare for this team. And our first game was a team that won the league the year before. We didn't have a pre-season game.
No.
And you know what? As much as we finished 9th out of 11th, which doesn't sound great, that was a better job than probably what we did in Brisbane, where we ended up qualifying for the Asian Champions League. So we've done okay. I mean, that is obviously the modest form of how we'll look at ourselves, but in India, we were competitive, and I mean, it was probably 5 games to go. We had a chance of maybe qualifying for the playoffs. And I mean, that was unreal, genuinely unreal. I mean,
and with the backdrop of COVID as well, I think. At the time,
and that's understated, because unless you were in them shoes, you wouldn't realise how tough that landscape was at that time because of the COVID, the lock-up, and the team was so late in coming. But no, just even similar to the team in Saudi, all of a sudden on your first day it's 50 degrees and you've got 37 players, and then the leadership team are saying you've got 4 days to pick 20. Well, do you not know them? Do you not know all these players that you've been watching for the last 3 years? But it's down to us in 4 days. It's like, it's crazy.
Great experience though. Like if ever you want
experience, because dealing with all these cultures out, and how people, we've got lads who, and Rob's led, and all of a sudden you've got players who have to come off because they've got to pray. That's their religion, which we respect that more than anything. So, but dealing with cultures is just another, for me, it's another pat on the back in a way, because you've done it really well. To be undefeated really in 3 different countries in a way, it's like, wow, the 3 different types of players, mentalities, how they behave, and then all that culture. It's testament, really is.
Fantastic. Listen, we've got a couple of little packages to run now. Before we end today, we're going to end today. I can't have you two sitting here together without ending looking forward to the Merseyside Derby at the weekend. Okay. So we'll come back to that near the end. But first of all, I went along to Goodison. Everton Women started their campaign at Goodison Park. They've obviously the club have kept Goodison for the women's team. And I spoke to CEO Hannah Forshaw about what the plans were for the club.
It's the statement of intent and the scale of the ambition of the ownership group. This is the direction women's football is going in, and the long-term hope is one day we'll fill the stadium full of female football fans in the same way that we did for the men's team. So to keep it and retain it during that growth period is just an unbelievable opportunity, and one I feel very privileged to be the custodian of, really.
And I guess in a way, when you look at the American owners, in a sense, the women's game over in America is such a different proposition, isn't it? Full stadiums, and I guess that's a real bonus to have that sort of mentality when you look at what you're trying to do here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and we should definitely be seeking to emulate the importance of women's football in the UK as it is in North America. But I think that's why our North American owners back this so vividly, because they see the opportunity, they understand the scale of what can be achieved, and the WSL is a fantastic league. So we have got all of the parts and the pieces of the puzzle. We just now need to start putting them back together and making something truly amazing here.
La verdad que sí, esto sí que sabía que tenía mucha historia y es un estadio muy conocido y muy importante. Estaría genial que mucha gente pudiera acompañarnos, sería súper bonito verlo lo más lleno posible y muy ilusionada por lo que se viene, tanto por el partido, por debutar en este estadio, como por la temporada que viene.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Obviously, you know, we all know how important this stadium is. It's really well known. It's a really important stadium in terms of the history. It would be great if loads of people could show up and we could get this stadium as full as possible. You know, and I'm really excited for not just this game on Saturday, but for what's coming in the rest of the season.
Now, also this week, Tony and I went to taste the blue donuts at Everton's new stadium.
We kept that one quiet.
I never had any. I left them all.
No, we did. I did eat them all. And but we had a little tour around this. There's starting tours at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. So Tony and I went and looked at the tour. It was quite fascinating, wasn't it, Tony?
It was. The changing rooms round. I was saying to Al back in the day, you know, Big Nev wouldn't have sat in there. No. He'd needed a corner. There's no corner in there. There's nowhere to go. Yeah. But as I say, football's moved on, and this has become the norm now, hasn't it? So.
Well, let's have a look at what we saw when we went down there.
I mean, it's almost what players are expecting these days. The modern way of playing. You know, I remember going to Goodison Park and Big Nev wouldn't be happy in here, would he? Because he'd want a corner. There's no corners because it's round in here, but it's brilliant, isn't it? No, you're getting out to off the bus, you're coming into here to get changed. It's big. You'll have tactics boards. I mean, football's just moved on, and this whole experience is outstanding, isn't it?
And of course, no big baths for everybody. You know, there'll be private showers and. You know.
Well, back in as you say, in Goodison, we'd have 2 big baths, and we'd have a couple of little baths. What was that? That was that was up until last year. But you know, football's moved on, and a lot of the big clubs have got this. We were just behind them, and now we're maybe ahead of a lot of clubs now.
So welcome to Hill Dickinson Stadium. We're really excited to get open for our stadium tours, which launch on Monday the 15th of September. All sold out for September and October. The demand has been incredible, so we've got more dates available in November and December coming, so get yourself online and book yourself a space to see behind the scenes here at Hill Dickinson Stadium.
Well, welcome back. Yeah, as I say, we enjoyed the Hill Dickinson Stadium there earlier in the week, but we're moving to Anfield next because the first derby, unusually, the first derby is usually at Goodison, but this year it's not. It's at Anfield. We'll start with you, Robbie. How are you nervous at all? I know, other than the normal nervousness of a derby.
No, I'm calling on win.
Go away.
No, you know what? I'm not nervous, to be fair. I think with Liverpool, and as much as we haven't been brilliant, I mean, Isak possibly could be ready for that game. I mean, that'll be interesting what obviously Arne Slot does with his formation. Will it be an easy game? No, I don't think it will be. I don't think over the years there's been many easy games, and as much as Liverpool have probably had the good results, I think some of the results have flat is probably the wrong word, but I mean, Liverpool obviously will be favourites. But Tony was mentioned before about some of the quality Everton have got now. You know, I'm a big fan of Jack Grealish. I think he's brilliant. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon now because everyone seems to like him. I mean, I've been saying it for years. He was probably a player that when he was at Villa, I wouldn't have minded at Liverpool, in all honesty. So you've got a little bit of quality there. So it's interesting the tactics what Everton will, if they come and sit back and make it hard. I mean, it's a different game, but then will you get the likes of Ndiaye on one side or Grealish come back and work? And I don't think you'll get that. So it possibly could be maybe a more of an open derby.
Open goal,
yeah. And I mean, could that fall into Liverpool's hands? Possibly, with obviously the quality Liverpool have had. I think we've seen you know, a little bit of an upturn with obviously Florian Wirtz or Wirtz. You know, I think his performance in the second half against Burnley was good and something that, you know, we probably wanted to see as a Liverpool player. So yeah, it'll be difficult, but I mean, you know, you might sort of laugh at me and start bullying me here because obviously the Everton Liverpool, but I can't see anything other than Liverpool win, in all honesty. Now, you know, I might be proven wrong, But
we'll get you back in if you are. but Tony, from an Everton point of view, I hear what Robbie's saying there about the way they approach the game. How will David Moyes? I mean, will he be cautious? Will he be thinking, let's keep this tight, or will he go with Dewsbury Hall, with Grealish, with
he's playing. He's going to play his best players.
Yeah,
his best players are going to play.
But what I mean is, will he go? Will he press that Liverpool defence?
I think he will. I think he'll make it into a derby.
Right.
I don't think he'll make it into a typical game. I think it will become a derby game. We're at Liverpool a little bit suspect that they're getting away with the right back area, big centre midfielder playing right back, who's done ever so well. But I'm sure we can get at him with Jack.
Yeah.
And Ndiaye can get at anyone. So I think the difference with us now, I think we can take the ball at the times as well. So I think we can have more of the ball, or quality with the ball. Not so much more of the ball, but quality when we've got the ball.
Right.
We all know Liverpool's strength. We know about Salah. Yeah, we know about Gakpo. We know about Isaac. So we know what they've got. If we leave them too much space, at times I'm sure they can hurt you. They can hurt anyone, can't they? So Moyes doesn't need me to tell him. I think Everton can go there. The greatest thing for Everton, I think, they can go with no shackles.
I was going to say that there's probably less pressure on them.
Nothing for Everton to lose, because with Liverpool's spending power this year, every game the pressure's on Liverpool, every game, which is something they've got to deal with because they've spent the money. They've got to deal with that. Being that number one team, that's what it comes with. The great thing going into a derby for Everton, you've got nothing to lose, and you can get stuck in. You really can get stuck in. And I've got this vision. I don't know if you want to hear it, but it's the Andre.
Yeah, I'm going to say
it's the Andre.
I do want to hear it, but I think you're wrong.
It's the Andre Kanchelskis year.
Are the mind games beginning here?
I'm just saying.
I can feel it happening.
This is old school.
Yeah,
I can see so much. I can see so much resemblance from Anders checking in field to find Andre, with Jack checking in field to find Ndiaye. I can see something.
I know
so
he didn't say check inside to find one of the strikers.
I'll come on next week.
Explain where you got it wrong.
I am really looking forward to this, and I think Everton can go and do themselves real justice. The start of the season, great. And I think Beto has been practicing all week, and I think he might just take one of them chances.
But in the end, even at this early stage, the result is actually quite interesting, isn't it? Because it would be the first time Liverpool dropped points. If Everton was to win, Everton had a decent start to the season. So a win again would. But a defeat might start the sort of, it might take away from that. The result is actually quite important, isn't it?
But they're always important.
Yeah, true.
I know what you mean, but in this city, this is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what else? I won't be here next week, but I'll be on the end of a phone call, so I'm happy to come on and.
What's your prediction, Rob?
I think Liverpool. I'm going to go Liverpool 3 goals.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm putting it out there. I'm going to go 3-0.
Wow.
Okay, Tony.
2-0. Everton.
2-0.
That division.
Well, it's the Andre.
2-0 Everton. Right. Okay. Well,
What do you think, Al?
I'm not saying anything. I've never been back to Anfield since 1994. I think it was 95 when Ronnie Rosenthal scored. Sorry, it was before that. The 95th minute winner that Ronnie Rosenthal scored. We were celebrating a point at Anfield. Absolutely delighted.
Says a lot.
And then next minute that went in. I've never been, not literally battered by the Liverpool fans, but verbally battered by Liverpool fans. I've never been back since. So I hate the Anfield derby. I honestly do. But as long as Everton go, I always think as long as Everton go there and put a show on and try and have a go.
And I think this is a different Everton team.
Yeah, it is.
The last few years.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Moyes could do with a win, couldn't he, against Liverpool?
Yeah, it's funny because we'll talk obviously results and what we think, and I mean I'm saying 3-0, and look, I'll be honest with you, it could be 1-0, couldn't it? I mean, it could be 1-1. I mean, the crux of it is we don't really know, but I think if Everton go out and they are a little bit open and leave themselves positions, then I think Liverpool have the players, the capabilities are going to hurt them. And I think. That's where I'm going. I mean, certainly from a Liverpool point of view, I mean, I hope Everton do go and make a game of it because I think that'll fall into Liverpool's hands.
Well, one thing's for sure, we'll all be watching on is it Saturday morning? I think 12:30, isn't it? The derby. But listen, we must close things up now, and I would love to say, Robbie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in. It really has. We really enjoyed it, and it's great to get that relationship between the two of you. So thanks very much for coming
Pleasure,
in.
mate. Thank you.
And we'll see you next week on the Added Time podcast.